Well, good evening. Tonight is, I don't know, January something.
22nd.
22nd still? Okay, January 22nd. This is Management 3025. This is our second meeting. We will meet again 2 weeks from tonight when we will be administering the DISC personality profile. I want to encourage everybody's attendance that can possibly make it. I think you get a lot more out of it if you're here than if you have to do it independently on your own. Typically, as a result of that session, there's a lot of give and take, not just that night, but for the rest of the term, many of our conversations will be couched in terms of the 4 different personality styles and what we observe and how they interact and our experiences. And I think you'd find it particularly helpful. Otherwise, Jimmy, you've got some comments on email that you've got?
Yeah. We've had, I just want to talk about a couple of things that have been common themes in emails that I've been reading. They're really fairly simple things, but one was there appears to be some confusion among some about the writing assignments. So I'm going to ask the group, when do we turn in the writing assignments?
When you ask.
Yes.
But I have a statement on that.
Go.
I know that we turn them in when you request them, but on the assignment sheet, on writing assignment 1, it said turn it in on a specific date. And on writing assignment 2, it also specifically said, turn this assignment in, turn it in on 1/22 at noon. And that's why I
Okay,
turned
I may
mine
have written
in.
that down for reasons that have long since left me.
But that's why I
But I
turned mine
can
in.
understand the confusion. We wanted the first one right away because we
Right.
were
Yeah.
looking for writing quality. As far as the second one goes, if you haven't turned it in, relax. If you have, relax. We'll call for it at some point in the future.
And I think Anidra's figured out a way to.
Yeah, I'm gonna go in and make sure I change those dates and
So
the
they don't get
calendars
people
so you
confused.
will not be confused.
So the calendar's not always telling you, oh, this is due, and we keep telling you, don't send it in. Hopefully our
And
technical
when you
expert will
request us
fix
to
it.
turn it in, you will make it under the announcements, that's where we'll see.
Either an announcement or an email
I mean,
directly to you.
It'll be obvious.
okay.
So if we already turned it in, I'm assuming you want us to turn it in again?
No, if you've already turned it in, it's in, don't worry.
I've turned it in twice, so you already have 2 of them.
Well, we're not gonna read it but once.
That's fine.
And the other thing that I had was, and I'm going to ask Roger to talk about it, was there were a couple of questions about the financial calculator, what type to get, what type to get, and you know, those kinds of things. So,
You got it? I'm just writing on the board.
Oh, okay.
The financial calculator we're suggesting is a Texas Instruments Business Analyst 2 or 2A, some of them are 2A. They're about $30 at Walmart, and they're about $15 as a smartphone app. Okay? You'll be able to use the phone app on an exam. I apologize. I thought that was in the syllabus until I looked at it this afternoon and found it was missing. Again, it's those voices I hear that tell me to do things. So I apologize for that. That was my fault.
In the syllabus, it just doesn't tell you what kind.
I'm sorry?
It's in there, it just doesn't verify what kind.
Yeah, exactly. And I know at one point in time I had exactly the specifications. I don't know what they told me to do with it. Okay, other things? Anybody? Any of y'all? I've sent the comment out to 6 or 8 different people. Go buy a style manual, the Bedford Style Manual or something like that, that is your guidance on grammar, punctuation, okay, syntax. And the one I've cited most often is learn how to use a semicolon. I got people using semicolons like they're a dime a dozen. So if you're having any hesitation, I don't care who you are, everybody should have a Bedford Style Manual or its equivalent on your desk all the damn time. The other thing you need for writing is you need somebody, not you, that you really trust, Mom, who can proofread and identify your errors. Okay? Because we're going to get stickier and stickier on them as the term goes. We're not just going to keep passing stuff off.
I have an APA manual from my previous school? Is that, would it have that?
I don't know, because it's APA style.
Okay,
And the fundamental writing style manuals that I'm used to, I don't know if the APA manual has all of that
Okay.
in there.
All right.
You can look and see.
okay.
I have an APA and it does not.
It does not, okay.
Good.
It's not as user-friendly either.
It's a whole science in and of itself.
Yes, yes. All right, what else? Anybody, anything?
I heard you mention about the annotations. I was one of those people, and all I could see, I saw like the spacing, one spacing error on my first assignment, but it's what I saw on mine. I didn't see
There were no
like any-
annotations down the side of your paper?
None. I can't, and I don't know if it's a Mac thing. I'm Mac, so I don't know. I have to
What browser are you
save
using?
mine. I use Chrome.
Chrome
So-
should work. Anita, I guess you're gonna try to resolve most of our technical issues, so we'll see if we find out anything
I
about
do.
Mac.
I use LibreOffice, so and then I have to save it as a docx. So it may be in the
Translation.
translation. It may lose something.
Don't know. Anybody else, when you open up your writing assignment that's been graded, do you see the annotations, the corrections? Says, this should be a comma, don't use a period here, blah, blah, blah. You see those when you open them up after you've had them graded?
Okay, so
You
what
see
if you
'em?
don't know if
No, I
they're
used
supposed to
Firefox, but I saw like the comments, but I didn't see any.
I didn't
corrections on
either.
anything.
You don't see
I
annotations?
saw comments.
I just saw comments.
I didn't see any.
Man, I'm annotating the heck out of
So-
those things. I
So
want my money's worth.
comments separate from the body of the text?
Yes,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah,
it
comments
said
are
watch
on there.
something, it
Okay.
said watch one thing,
I
I
didn't
can't
know
remember what
it
it
was.
was, and then, but I didn't see anything in the paper itself.
Anita, could you check that out for us and see why annotations aren't appearing? Goodness, that's
All
frustrating.
kinds of problems.
Oh, I'm telling you, because we don't want to have to be emailing all this stuff back and forth, if we can just sift it through Canvas. Good, that's one to work on. Anything else?
The Caproni study question,
Yeah.
are we supposed, are they split for the final and the midterm?
Mhm.
Okay, well,
See the chapters, you see certain, and I forgot the chapters number.
Okay.
Chapter numbers, 1 through 4, or whatever on the first exam. So the questions for those chapters
okay.
be the ones you study. Okay. Anything else? Anybody?
Talkative group.
Yeah. Well,
I've talked a lot.
yeah, you've complained quite a bit. I mean, you said quite a bit.
When are we gonna get some further discussion on the videos that we need to work on? Because I think one of them is coming up fairly soon.
I think writing assignment 1 describes what's wanted in the video.
Right.
Sorry, demonstrated competency 1 describes what's wanted in the video.
And that's all we're gonna get?
It's in the module.
I'll answer any kind of questions you've got.
So you don't
let-
care how we do this?
Let me
as long
say,
as
let me
it's
say
on
2
YouTube?
things about videos. Personal appearance, very professional, okay? Not sitting around the kitchen in your t-shirt and whatever. And the environment you're in. See if you cannot find a location that looks like a reasonably professional environment. For example, a reading room with nice books on the shelves, or a nice living room that's, you know, or a nice office setting, okay? A couple of other ideas. Check how good the audio quality is, because sometimes we get really terrible audio on those videos. And imagine you're sending this video in as part of a job search process, because that's getting to be more and more common. Okay, you can't come in, or before I fill this job, I find 15 people I think look really interesting on paper. I'd sure rather you sent me a 5 or 10 minute video and let me screen you a little further than have to sit down in a room with each of you and do all the logistics of getting you there and back. So the video, think of it in terms of a personal selling tool. This is part of how I'm going to present myself and get my job. So the setting is important, the appearance is important, the video and audio quality is important. Had a couple of people who tried to do them outside. And I mean, it was a great video, except the wind was blowing and you couldn't hear them talking. Or a truck would come by and suddenly everything's out. You know? So those concerns I point you at.
Okay.
Other than that, yeah, you're pretty much on your own.
You know, we've all been to that presentation where someone's up before the group and then all of a sudden this doesn't work or that doesn't work, or the background or the room that you're in is totally inappropriate for what they're doing the presentation about. So, I mean, it's just those little kinds of things, and then be creative. That's what it boils down to.
Now, some of you have skills with editing and know how to put some background music and fade it out and come in and, or do, a little spin around, here it is, bingo, or change, your little transitions from this to that. If you can do that, good, and if you can't do that,
Don't do it.
go find somebody who can. That's what management is, right? Here's a job, go do it. Try not to trouble me with too many issues, but ask any questions you need as you do it to clarify. Other than that, I'd like to see perfection sometime in the next 72 hours. Bye. Yeah, that's pretty much it.
You're just chomping at the bit to ask a question and won't do. No?
Other questions, comments?
Can we put a blooper reel in there?
A blooper reel?
Because I did this last semester with you guys, and I must have done about like 115 takes, and they were thoroughly amusing, I thought, just the bloopers themselves.
I would put them on as a trailer to the end of it.
Okay.
I think that'd be great. I'd sit down and watch 30 of those videos at one time one day. A little bit of blooper humor would be great.
Okay.
Of course, usually by the end of 30 videos, I'm 4 or 5 vodka martinis into it, so they will be particularly appreciated. Good. Okay,
I hope
whatever
mine's
else.
last.
I'm sorry?
I hope mine's the last one out there.
We'll provide the vodka.
Well, I guess to treat everybody fairly, after at least I finish watching my portion of them, I should go back to at least the lowest grades and watch them again after
There you go,
watching these.
there you go.
Oh, not a problem. Yes, ma'am?
These midterm banks,
Yeah.
they don't have the answers. We obviously have to go to the book.
That is correct.
Will we ever go over to make sure we have the right answers?
No, ma'am. We will not give you answers to those.
Okay.
Only on the exam.
And I noticed like we only have a midterm and a final, so even though the chapters for the midterm are in like the bank too, we have to, never mind, I know the answer, I don't know what I'm asking you.
Okay, the test banks are for chapters 1 through 8, that's the midterm, and then 9 through 16 is the final.
Okay.
Let me suggest. Last term, 1 or 2 individuals started, what did they call it? A Google group or something? Google, and there were like 10 of them colluding together, working up answers, and checking each other's answers, and then sharing them.
Somebody has started.
Somebody, yeah.
Something,
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean,
There's two, actually.
I'm pretty sure that's called management. So if you, if you're gonna be the rugged individual who's gonna go look up all 200 answers on your own and hope you got them right because nobody else is checking them, I'm not sure that's real smart. Okay? What else?
So on the note of the study groups, Yancey is correct. There are, I think, currently about 2 groups started. One of them is a completely virtual group where you can sign on and participate in the Google Docs, and the other group is going to meet for the first time over at the library this Sunday from 2 to 4. I don't know the room location yet, but we'll figure that out and email it into the discussion area. I'm still waiting on a room reservation. So anybody that wants to can show up.
Sunday 2 to 4 at the library,
Yep.
study group. Good. It also seems to me that if you're going to go through this program, many of the courses you take are going to be taken together. You might as well get to know each other and then figure out the shtick. What's a shtick? A shtick is a routine of, maybe it's a comedy shtick of how you come in and do your comedy show. A shtick for going through this program would include knowing everybody you can, using Google Docs and consolidated work. It would include taking courses together with people you like to work with or depend on. It would include collaborating with others about what's involved in that course, etc., and planning out your schedules for the successive terms, which you've got to do in this course. And so the more you spend time together face-to-face working, I think the better off you're going to be. And it happens to be more fun. Anything else? How many of you have the financial calculator with you tonight? Only about 5. Wow. There are noted in the materials on Canvas I think there is a separate module on the calculations. And when you look to that module, you'll see a document about time value of money, TVM. And listed under there are a couple of documents that you read that explain what's going on. And also listed are several, 2 or 3 or 5, I don't know, videos explaining the use of the calculator, which is what I was going to do tonight. But I'm reluctant to do so with so many people not even having the calculator in hand. Okay? So I'm gonna ask you to go look at those videos, practice with that calculator. There's a couple of set of problems, practice problems. Work through those practice problems, and if you are having any difficulty at all, let me know. Give me a little description of what you're finding difficult, and I'll try to respond to you that way. If, based on your feedback, I see the need to recreate a couple of videos and be a little more specific, I'll do that. And if any of you find that you want to get together at some other time in the next, or during the next 2 weeks, and sit down for 30 minutes and go over it, I'd be delighted to make time to do that. Some evening, some afternoon, whatever works. I think that would be preferable than working through all that stuff tonight when all but 4 or 5 of you don't even have the buttons to push in front of you. Okay? Mm-hmm.
This is just kind of like a fun fact for everyone. I don't know, like, if anyone's taking managerial economics or anything like that. Khan Academy is like the greatest website to help with any of those kind of equations. They do math and science and economics and stuff. So Khan Academy, always reference that. Oh no, it's K-H-A-N.
Sorry. K-H. As in genius.
That one helped me through calculus and economics.
Sometimes here on campus, some of the math labs, you can get some of the guys in the math lab. They help you with the calculations. Then there's also, of course, free tutoring here on campus available.
And if you're doing the managerial econ and you're going back, or even if you're doing micro, getting ready for managerial, you can go to my Wyvern 66 channel, and I've got a lot of the basic micro on there too. Me and Con are in competition for that. Right. Okay? That said, yes, sir.
Do you care if we use a different calculator?
As long as you can make it work, no problem.
What if it's a different calculator that's on our phone?
As long as it's got,
As long as it's not the TI, I mean, it's a financial calculator, it's just not the Texas.
which one is,
Free one?
hmm?
There's a bunch of free ones.
Well, as long as it's got these kind of buttons on it, payments, number of payments, interest rate, you may have either one of those, present value and future value. So if it's got those kind of functions on it, and you can make it work,
Sounds good?
I don't care what you use. You can use an abacus as far as I'm concerned. That's great. Okay, anything else? How many of you have done WA2 on social and human capital? Okay. Where did you find the directions?
In the module.
In the modules under writing assignments, where it's basically a couple of paragraphs with some questions that write about this. Now, what's the underlying, approach to those kind of assignments? Research it. Make sure you're very clear on the definitions and present them. Cite where you get the definitions from, and then show some unusually insightful views, comments, and examples of your own to illustrate your points. Okay? Let's ask just for a minute, what is human capital?
The employees and their skills.
Good.
Their potential.
Good. Hang on. I can't talk if I can't write. I've been doing this for too long.
The investment that you've made.
What are KSAs?
Skills and abilities.
Knowledge, skills, and abilities. You can start there. Part of your human capital computation is, what are the knowledge, skills, and abilities that my people have? Now, part of that is derived from their experience. But that may be present tense. What is the human capital of my firm? But you make a very good point. As we go forward in time, can I influence that human capital? Just think of it like a piece of equipment.
Absolutely.
Except what? It does depreciate
It has
if it doesn't
restricted repair
keep
rate.
maintained and used. But unlike a machine, it can increase its capacity. It can learn. It can cross-train. It can multitask. So as you look forward into the future, the question becomes, what's the future value of the human capital in my business, and how can I influence that? Through training, educational programs, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Okay? So human capital in that sense is like equipment, but it's different. How does it depreciate? How would you see it depreciating in a firm?
Loss of a group of employees.
I'm sorry?
Loss of a group of employees.
Okay, loss of some
Retirement or
particularly
aging
key
out.
employees. What else?
Retirement, aging out,
Retirement, aging out, quitting.
loss of motivation.
Good. So if you see a firm, what do we mean by high employee turnover?
The employees will stick around.
They don't retain their employees for a length of
Good.
time.
If I had a firm with 50 employees and I had a 300% turnover, what does that mean?
You should shut the doors.
I should shut the doors. I'm probably a really lousy leader manager because I'm driving people away. It means that I hire the equivalent of 150 people a year. That I lose a third of my workforce every time I turn around, 3 times a year. I lose the whole workforce 3 times a year. Okay, if that's happening, what does it say about the human capital in the outfit?
They're not increasing in it.
It's not sticking. There's no longevity. There's no legacy knowledge. The things they've learned, the procedures, the stuff that's not even written down, that's gone every time they keep leaving. So one of our measures is going to be, what's our employee turnover like, and why is it that way? Not just for the company, but department by department by department.
What was the phrase I heard someone use right here? I heard
Were they
just
calling
now.
me names, or?
Not investing in
They're
it.
not investing in the
Yeah.
human capital.
Yeah.
Think about this. If you had a $15,000 piece of equipment and you thought it had a 5-year life, how much does it depreciate every year on the average? $3,000. We call that straight line depreciation if you've had any accounting, right? Just 3,000 a year. Do you think that happens to people?
Can.
Yeah.
I think it can. Let me do this. What if we had an employee and we're paying the employee $40,000 a year? What's the life of his or her KSAs, his or her human capital, before what they know becomes relatively obsolete?
Depends on what field you're in.
Give me a general application, not IT, it's too fast.
Say like a year maybe?
I would say it's, whatever they know is probably good. Let's be generous and say it's good for 8 years.
Okay.
Does that mean that they are depreciating at the tune of $5,000 a year? Does that mean that you, as the business, the owner, need to be investing in that employee to the tune of $5,000 a year? Maybe so. Or maybe something approaching that. So aside from the turnover, we also want to ask, how much are you investing in either maintaining or growing the human capital in your outfit? And there's a rule of thumb to start with. This may be exaggerated, but at least it gives you a measure. By the way, that's also true for you or I on a personal basis. If your boss is not investing in you, are you investing in you? Are you increasing your own human capital, your own KSAs over time? And I'd like to hear y'all's opinion because you've got the HR background.
I'm good. I'm actually.
I know you're just about to jump. One idea. Tell me what you think. You work for me. Here's how I'm going to do 50% of your evaluation every year. Every year on March the 1st, when your evaluation comes up, I want you to bring me a new updated resume from last year. And how had that resume better be different?
Different responsibilities.
Good. I want to see that you've taken on different responsibilities, you've attended and acquired different levels of education or knowledge in different areas. You have what else?
Cross-training.
You have cross-trained in other departments and other tasks. What else am I going to look for? Personally, I'm going to look for, are you involved in the community? Are you involved in training or mentoring or guiding other employees? And what's got to happen every year on that resume? It's got to get better and bigger. Would I be out of line with that kind of evaluation?
No, not at all. Well, the point I was gonna make is where we get in trouble with things like performance appraisals and those kinds of things is that it's a snapshot in time, or we tend to treat it as though it's a snapshot in time. And so it gets influenced by all kinds of other clutter and stuff. Let's say that you've just completed this project last month and it was just slam bang, it was the greatest thing since sliced bread. That's going to influence how I grade you on that performance appraisal. Or the opposite. You know, you did something yesterday that really ticked me off. That stuff gets into the appraisal. So the appraisal really should be an ongoing process. And if you think about that in terms of human capital, it's an ongoing process of investment in your employees. One of the ways that people describe KSAs, you will sometimes hear that the standard thing is knowledge, skills, and abilities. What you will sometimes hear is knowledge, skills, and attitudes, which basically says if you invest in those employees, you influence that attitude in such a way that it becomes positive and in fact impacts the bottom line for your organization. So,
I like the knowledge, skill, and attitude approach much better.
yeah, and particularly when you start talking about this next piece, which is the social capital, because the attitude impacts the social
Oh, yeah,
capital.
it's got externalities. Did you want to jump into it? Not yet?
I think that was good.
When we provoke you enough, you're welcome. It was always my practice in managing people that I keep a continuing file of what I call memoranda for record, MFRs, memorandum for record. And every time anything happened, I wrote that out as a record to myself. Okay? Now, it may be that I had some dealings with some people over in another part of the company, or I had some dealings with a supplier, but it also means when I had observations or dealings with the people directly reporting to me, I tried to maintain a written record on a regular basis, talk to so-and-so about so-and-so, or so-and-so did such and such, outstanding job, blah, blah, blah. Then when it comes time for your evaluation, I should be able to sit down and go back and say, well, in April last year, today's March the 1st this year, and be able to get a flavor for that all the way across, rather than what have you done lately to either make me mad or make me happy. That recency effect can be very, very harmful. Okay? What's the best way to improve attitudes? Any ideas? Well, your own attitude for sure. But this just
Invest in your employees.
How?
Invest.
Promotions.
Raise.
What?
You have to be positive if you want other people to be positive.
Got to write the word down, otherwise it doesn't count. I think this is the one that is so often overlooked. And I like the way it's phrased. Micro affirmations. Anybody want to take a wild guess on what that means?
Affirm people.
A lot.
To just say something nice, complimentary, positive on a regular but not trite basis. When somebody does something good, at least pat them on the back, tell them, great, I appreciate that, you know? I got to tell you something. My boss gave me a bottle of scotch for Christmas
Oh,
this year.
heck yeah.
Appreciate it.
And that was not part of my regular, here it is, it usually gives everybody a can of peanuts. You know what that did for me? I came back ready to go ahead and just kill some more dragons. No problem. It's nice to be appreciated, particularly with good scotch, single malt. Anyway. Okay? But think how easy it is, how quick it is, how little it costs to just go around and pat somebody on the back, verbally, don't get too physical about that, you can get in trouble. So we talk about two different approaches to management. One of them is called pat on the back, or POTB. The other one's called KITA. What suppose that means? A kick in the ass. Now, you'll see later, if you've not read it yet, that's called McGregor's theory of leadership. Two styles of leadership. Theory X is KITA. Your job is to watch them and catch them when they screw up, because they're going to screw up. That's how they are. You ever work for anybody like that? We usually don't forget those people.
Yes, thank goodness.
The theory Y leadership says, I assume you're here because you want to be, you'll do the best job you can. My job as your manager is to give you the resources and solve your problems if you have any. Now, if I tell you you can manage this way or this way, I have presented you with a different situation, which is called a false dichotomy. I have told you you can be this or that, but what's the truth? It's a spectrum. Sometimes, some situations, you've got to be a theory X. You've got to be a real hard ass. But even then, there are techniques to doing that. Some are good and some are bad. When might you want to be a real, no-nonsense, back talk, get it done right now?
Important project is coming up soon.
Okay. Other times?
When your boss is on your case and you have employees underneath you.
Could be, but if you translate his paranoia and fear down into your people, you're doing more harm than good.
And that's the best way that an employee responds, maybe, because different people have different, react to different managers in different ways. So if their best way to be motivated is to say, hey, we gotta do this, we gotta get it done now, with a sense of urgency, maybe that's the best way they work.
Perhaps. The one I'm thinking of, Jimmy knows about. Combat. When you're in combat, there is no time to say, let's sit down and talk this over. You know? Okay. The other time, typically your X is going to be coming out more when you have unskilled and unmotivated people. But too often, if you let that X control you, if you become a theory X, I'm watching over you because I don't trust anything you do, it becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. You treat them that way, they act that way. And so if you can move them back over here or move yourself back over there and expect the best, your expectations have a heck of a lot to say in how your people perform. And the theory X approach probably works individually, one-on-one with some people sometimes. That's a category of what I've learned to call the come to Jesus talk. Okay? You've been screwing up pretty bad. We're going to sit down one-on-one and we're going to, try and understand why that's the problem. Yes, ma'am?
That term, false dichotomy, that's not in the Kanicki book, is it?
No, ma'am, you're getting extra wisdom for no charge tonight.
I don't remember seeing it anywhere, and I
But now that it's
really
been
went through
presented,
those
it's fair game.
chapters, and I'm paranoid now.
You might have give me 3 pages on false dichotomies.
You want one? You want me to do
3
that?
pages for an exam. Give me 3 pages explaining and giving examples of false dichotomies. What are you going to do with that? Write big and big margins. Research, whatever. Okay, good. Yeah.
So you might think that the other extreme is really great, and all of your employees are going to like you and all of that stuff, right? Yeah? No? Why would that not be the way to go?
Because they're human.
Because human beings are complex.
Yeah. Yeah, you end up getting nothing done. And the people who are working for you become your supervisor, and that kind of thing.
Sometimes these people become laissez-faire managers.
Yeah.
What's laissez-faire mean?
Go lucky.
Literally.
In French, it means leave us alone. It's a I'll leave them alone type management because they're going to do the best they can because they love me. And you'll be out looking for a job before too long.
There you go. That's it.
Sometimes it's called a country club management style. And we will see, by the way, that some personalities tend to drift more towards one or the others of these in their approach to people. And those, again, can be very self-fulfilling and very destructive. Okay?
Isn't that where you would try to, when you're selecting employees, you try to choose ones or through the personality type of tests that you can give your employees? Try to find out where they would fall before you hire them?
They usually tell you, you know more about this than I do.
Really,
Way more.
it's more about you knowing your employees well enough, that range of personalities and what, as he mentioned over there in the back, what motivates people, because everyone's motivated by different things. You need to know them well enough that you can adjust your style, adapt your style, and it might be totally different for employee A and employee B. Mm-hmm. So it's really more, let's say that you had just been chosen to lead a department, and your boss told you that from now on, the focus in this department is going to be synergy. Anyone heard that word? But basically, okay. So if that be the case, then you might be looking for personalities where that whole synergy thing is important to them. But in general, you're not selecting based on those kinds of things.
They tell us frequently, don't use the personality style tools as a selection or a screening
Yeah.
tool.
It actually could be
mentally.
Could be considered discriminatory.
Yeah,
as
that's
well.
true, that's true, for sure.
This would be a much more interesting conversation right now if we could then take off
Yeah.
and talk about different settings for different personality types. We will do more of that later in the term. Cool. So part of the conversations in the evenings like this, I hope become what we're doing right now. Let's get started on a general topic and take it wherever it goes. I genuinely invite you to share your experiences and some of your biases or whatever, and where you've run into problems or where you've run into really good people. And because, y'all, it's not like y'all are babes off the street, right? You've got as much experience as we do in many areas. So let's share it. All right? Now, how do we get started on this? Who's
You
Paul?
calling us old?
No, you're not in the league with me by any means. You're not 18, okay? You look it, but you're not. Oh!
Nice save.
And my feet never leave my body as I tap dance. How do we get started on this?
We were talking about the writing assignment.
Yeah.
Yeah. What then is social capital?
Teamwork, network, inside and outside, how you connect the people to be productive in your services.
If you start reading on this, you will discover two different conversations about social capital. One of them talks about the company's position in the community and within that society. But if you look at the writing assignment, it says social capital here is intended from an internal point of view. And so social capital is the smoothness with which your people operate together, complement each other, encourage each other, inspire each other, trust one another. Now, one part of that assignment, and if you haven't done it, you better do a damn good job on it since we're talking about it. How do you see a company?
Where is that?
Go
Send it
resubmit.
again.
I've already turned it in.
Then resubmit.
You can read it. Yeah.
How do you spot a company or an outfit that's deficient in social capital?
Lot of turnover.
Yeah, high turnover.
High turnover.
Unsatisfied
morale.
employees.
How do you spot lousy morale? You're brand new to the organization, you've been put in charge, you really don't know nothing about what's going on with the people. What are some of the indicators that you may have a morale/social capital problem?
Like gossiping.
They're grumpy,
No,
grumpy?
any
They
effort
just have
into their
not
work.
doing their job
They
right.
have no pride in their work.
Okay,
Poor communication about projects.
true.
Like body language.
That's
Say
Yes.
again? What's that?
I roll.
It has some of that
Lots of
going
eye
on.
rolling. You're brand new and you just came in, it's noon, it's your first day, and it's Friday. And you'd like to be able to go home and think about what you got here, but you're not sure what you got. You got 4.5 hours till quitting time. What would you do to try to get a sense of the social capital in your little outfit?
Make friends with somebody to go to dinner with.
Anybody? That's one.
Go to the break room.
Go to the
And
break room.
Go to the break rooms, just kind of get a feel for the organization.
See who's still there on Friday afternoon. How many percentage of employees down the hall?
Walk by
are
and look
there?
at computer screens and see what everybody's doing.
Yeah. Facebook.
Okay, anybody else?
Go in the bathroom, and listen.
Have a meeting or sit down with people.
What about like undercover boss, where they actually, you find out you have some really, really poor employees just by striking up a conversation, and they'll be the first to say,
Yeah,
oh, I
but-
hate it here.
But this is your first day, so you really haven't had
But
time.
isn't some of that stuff the things that you should have done before you accepted a new job? Some digging into
Not
what you're
necessarily.
walking into?
Sometimes you're gonna get an offer that says, I need somebody to take over this outfit because it's really messed up. I know you're really
So you're
good.
talking about an inter-organizational shift?
Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Well, you could have come from outside the organization just as well,
And sometimes they don't need people in the department they're gonna be managing either.
until you're there.
Mhm.
Well, it's your first day and it's Friday, someone should be offering margaritas now.
Exactly.
I'm liking this
Let's go
group.
out for margaritas.
Honestly, my thought was either say, about 4 o'clock, say, listen, I just got some stuff in, I need y'all to hang around for about 15 minutes after quitting time and have a quick discussion with me. And
See how many people
gauge
stay.
their reaction,
Yeah.
okay? The other option is to say, when we quit today at 4:30, I'm going to Applebee's across the street, and if any of you want to join me and we could, do a little socializing, first round's on me. Now, what's the danger with that?
Everybody goes.
And they're all drunks, yeah.
You have a really high bar tab.
No? What does the term fraternization mean? Ever heard it? Okay, we'll write it down.
Yeah.
We're building vocabulary, right? I'll try not to write any bad words up here.
Associating outside of the corporate culture.
It's when you're at one level in the culture and you're supervising people, the degree to which you socialize with them and become familiar, fraternize with them, is a really touchy thing. You've really got to know what you're doing before you open those kind of doors.
So first day, that's a dangerous move.
On the first day, that could be a dangerous move. Again, it depends on you and how you handle it.
5 years later, that could be a dangerous move.
That's true too.
True.
That's true too. You've got to be comfortable sitting down with those people socially, and yet if they start crossing the line and trying to become too familiar, too pushy, you got to be able to say, I really enjoy this kind of conversation, but we don't go past this level. And if you can't look somebody in the eye and say that, then don't put yourself in that position. I'll give you an example. I used to teach night classes a lot early on when I was a younger man. And we'd finish about 9 o'clock at night, and I'd say, okay, we're done, and I'm going down to Aw Shucks, a place down here that serves seafood and beer. If any of you would like to join me, you're welcome to, and we'll just sit around and chat. Would that be a wise thing for a classroom instructor to do? I argue that it depends on how you handle it. I made some of the best friends in my life doing that. Still have them now. I wouldn't change that at all. But on more than one occasion down there at Aw Shucks, I've had to take somebody aside and say, look, we're having a good time socially, but my name is not Roger. It's Mr. Strickland. And until you and I get to be much better friends, we're going to maintain that division in our relationship. Now, given that, I enjoy your company, I like talking to you, okay? If you're not comfortable saying that to somebody, don't put yourself in the position. I don't have any problem with it at all. All right? I like the idea of, in some way, finding out what's going on with people by putting a little challenge in front of them. We intend to do it to you occasionally in this course. You might wake up on a Monday morning and check, and there's an announcement, and it says, oh, there's another assignment we just made. We'd like to see the results by close of business on Thursday. To which you can say, oh, but I had so much going on. We don't care. I'm gauging reactions. How are you going to handle it? Okay?
We're gonna get her done.
Huh?
We're gonna get her done.
That's it. But it's not just, this is another big thing with me, it's not just what you do, it's how you do it. How you come across with it. You've got to do it better than anybody else, and you've got to make it look easy. Never get ruffled, never get angry, never show emotion until you're really well established. If you find yourself very, very angry with someone, don't talk to them. Go calm down. I mean, I learned that with kids, just raising kids.
Still learning that.
I learned it slowly, and they still regret parts of it. But
Exactly.
I had a student, it's kind of funny. I had a student last term sent me an email. She was upset about a particular grade that she had on a particular assignment. And I responded very diplomatically without emotion and the whole thing, professionally as I am. And I got back an email, and I apologized because she was upset. So I got back this really long response from her. She said, "Oh my God, after you apologized, I was wondering what you were apologizing for." And so she went back and read what she had written and was kind of devastated. She couldn't believe that she had put what she had put on paper. So that's a really nice point.
We have had a couple of incidents in the program where students became rather upset with a grade or the performance of a particular instructor or their perceived refusal to return email or get back, and the student, in a moment of pique and anger, writing some very, very nasty four-letter word. Yes. Or, in one case, the student took off on a diatribe about the teacher on the discussion forum. Okay. Now, there's a word for that in management, too. It's called stupid. Okay? So we don't, don't you know this about email? You never write email when you're angry or when you're drinking. Okay? Because you don't know what you said. It's very true. The same thing in conversations.
They probably needed to try to pick a different field.
Well, I'm pretty sure one of them's going to wind up in another field because that person hadn't taken this course yet.
Yeah.
One of them was actually a very good young man who was a personality type who responds to challenges with extreme emotion, energy, and sometimes anger. And he and I spent several sessions talking about that. And I think he's going to be fine. I don't think he'll do that again. He was very apologetic and very professional about it after he learned perception. There's a term I like. It's called situational awareness. Are you aware what's going on around you? And what I find, particularly with much younger people today, the 18, 20-year-olds that come out here, they live in this world. They can't see any further than that. They're on their phone or they're on their videos, and they're socially somewhat maladroit. They're not very smooth with social skills, conversations, and they're not aware of how they're being perceived or what they're doing and how it impacts or is perceived by others. And it takes a little education to lift them up out of that. I think this young man was going through some of that. He was on the younger side. So,
Greeks are like that, so I stopped working for Greeks.
Ah.
I was managing diners for 4 years, and my boss was very Theory X, and he would yell and scream in front of the customers, and I would always grab him aside and be like, when you're about to scream, just run in the back, run in the kitchen, and just throw whatever you want. We'll fix it later. Just start throwing things. But don't yell in front of the customers.
well, you've picked on Greeks, but in fact, that's a cultural behavioral norm in many different
I
societies.
know I'm Greek, so.
Well, then, when you start getting out of line, I'm just going to tell you, okay.
Just remind me, and I'll be like, I know, it's from my father, I can't help it.
It's not my fault. It's all genetic.
It is. That's what I'm sticking with here.
That's my story I'm sticking to. And one of the things that we really don't get into a lot in this course, I hope you pick it up in one of the nursing courses down the road, is when you're dealing with people from different cultural backgrounds, you're dealing with different behavioral norms, and you got to be on your toes on how to deal with that.
Well, also just having 3 different children who are all totally different. Some just are. My oldest is an old man, has always been an old man. My middle son, I have to explain every situation to him because he doesn't understand how people perceive him. He doesn't get it. He misreads things all the time. So I'm sure there's plenty of people like that as well. Employees, that.
I think a common problem we have with younger employees today is that for the last 10 or 15 years in our culture anyway, kids going through school have not been taught what failure is all about. They have been reinforced in a positive manner to the extent they don't understand failure and how to deal with it. And I see it in the classroom. And that's management, that's leadership more than anything. That's coaching people through the difficulties, explaining them, making them aware, at the same time without burying them.
I also see with young folks applying for, I manage usually interns and other types of students, and now even more than 10 years ago, these kids, I call them, that are coming in with at the end of their master's program and have never worked a day in their life as an employee. 10 years ago even, I would say probably half of them were that way. Now I would say 99% have not worked outside of going to school.
Can I have that life?
Say again?
I said, can I have that life? I don't know what that's like.
I find a lot less of that here at Santa Fe
Yes.
than I do, for example, down at Florida.
I
The
work at
average
UF.
person there is 20 years old. But I do find more of it today than I used to. More and more people who really have very limited, if any, real-world experience, just in the everyday things of life. I spend a lot of time talking to students personally about budgets and bills and laws, and it's like we're kicking them out of the nest, and they not even can't fly, they can't really walk yet. It's tough. And those are the employees you and I got to face. So the job includes father confessor, counselor, motivational speaker, all the things that aren't in the job description.
You sure it's because they weren't beaten as children?
They weren't what?
Beaten as children?
For some of them it was because they weren't beaten, and for some of them it's because they were. Literally. Literally. Yeah. Every person has a story. And some of them you have no idea about unless you really get to know them. What else is going on in your mind? Okay, we've got social capital, human capital. I'm expecting a wonderful resubmission. Anything else?
Something sticking in my mind, just company that I used to work for, it's Ratner, which was hair cutteries. And what's interesting about the way Dennis put the corporation together is you could go in as a stylist and just stay that way. You could sign up for the education classes and you'd get these certificates and these stamps, and you could literally bring yourself up and become assistant or manager or district leader or whatever you wanted to do. You could put that in and they would
support
give it right back, and you'd also, your salary would be commensurate with the effort you put in. So that's an interesting, I think it's interesting. You can do what you want. If you don't want to go that high, you don't have to.
Yeah, if you just want to get to this level and stay forever.
Right.
And there are companies and industries where that's allowed and others where it's not.
Right.
In management, it's typically not going to be allowed.
No, no.
Okay, we're expecting you to continually improve yourself.
Absolutely.
And we want to think about that we can groom you for some
But
succession
I'm saying
management.
the people who do take those steps, those are the people that you keep
Those are
your
the
eye on.
self-starters you're
Right.
looking for. Let me say just a word about the macro economy today and the job market today. What's it like? Anybody heard? Is it good? It's not good.
Well, they tell us it's improving, but it doesn't feel like it at the local level.
They say it's under 7% now in Florida, but
What's the
that's a lot of
unemployment?
part-time jobs, I think.
We know that the unemployment rate is terribly misleading. The good news is it's misleading in both directions. To one degree, it overstates the problem. Okay? There's a lot of people working or not reported as working because they're working in the underground. There's also a lot of people out there who aren't even looking for a job because they've given up. And we really should count them as unemployed. And probably the realistic unemployment rate is not 6.7%, it's probably 17%. And we know there's 5 or 6 people out there looking for jobs for every one job that's being advertised. So it's a highly competitive market looking for employment. That may sound like the bad news, but the good news is something we were just talking about. An awful lot of the people graduating college today have very little in the way of real-life experiences and real-life skills. And so I want you to think in terms of this course, and we will talk about it again in this meetings at night. Most of the students in this course are in their early to mid-30s or older. They have a great deal of life experience. Many times they don't understand how you translate that into value in the job search mode. But my argument is, with this program is not your traditional management program, and this certainly isn't a traditional management class. The traditional management class, taken at Florida, you would take a book like Kanicki and you would memorize it and spit it back, and that's pretty much it, you're done. Here, that's half of it, yeah, you gotta have that, but then you got the Caproni book, which is very self-reflective, introspective. You will know more about yourself at the end of this term than anybody going through that management course in any other university. And then, in the nature of the assignments we're giving you, a lot of those are pretty much the same kind of stuff you're gonna be asked for. And you're gonna be graded pretty much in the same way, in the sense that we can. So when you come out of this program, I hope you're making the argument that it was not a traditional management program. I got a lot more hands-on skills. I got a lot more personal experience. I'm a lot more valuable. And you need me in that job because I'm ready to start today, not somebody who's 22, 24 years old that doesn't even have social skills yet. And so when we talk about how hard the job market's terribly difficult if you sit on the couch and wait for somebody to call you and offer you a job. If your idea of finding a job is sending out 3,000 resumes and waiting for the phone to ring, there's a term for that too. It's called stupid. My dream is that every one of you, before you finish this program, has a job lined up. You have done 1 or 2 internships. You have networked your ass off to where you know all kind of people everywhere. And you have put the word out about yourself. And you have people looking for you for where those jobs are, because the jobs are out there. The need is still great. The turnover in management is still high because so many people who have moved into management aren't truly confident. So, if nothing else, put it in your mind. And the other thing, people will say, oh, well, you got your degree in an online program. The next comeback to that is say, let me tell you about the classes I attended, because we held class. And that's one of the reasons we hold these classes, is so that you can say this is not a traditional online program either. We sat down face to face and worked through issues, talked through things, etc. So part of what we're doing in this course is future looking.
Yeah, a lot of you are going to find later on, probably 2, 3, 4 terms from now, particularly the demonstrated competencies. You're going to find things in those that you'll be able to apply to specific situations that are going to come up as you go on in your work life. You're also going to find that these competencies, these activities that we have and you participate in, can become like a baseline, if you will, to build upon as you go on farther into your career. So really put some thought into how you go about these things.
All right. Maybe that's the end of the sermon there, preacher? I don't know.
I'm not, by the way.
But you could be. That's an inside joke we will explain in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
What's going on? Anything else on your mind? Any concerns? So far, the workload, at least in this course, hasn't been too bad, has it? So you ought to be ahead. Other courses? How they going? How's accounting? Anybody taking accounting? Having a lot of fun there, huh? You bet.
Oh, yeah,
It's a
loads.
blast.
It's been 30 years since I've had accounting.
They didn't tell you to take the other one when I went to start. They told me not to take that until I audited the other one.
Yeah, the prereq is accounting 2001, and it's probably a good idea if you haven't seen it in a while to audit that at least.
Yes, that's what they told me.
didn't tell me that.
Oh,
I
what
had
did you
accounting,
see?
I had accounting 1 and 2, and they said, oh, you're good, you had an A in it, no problem.
Are you running into questions you don't understand, et cetera?
Yeah, because it was long, yeah, they.
30 years.
Okay. I used to teach accounting. If I can help you in any way, let me know. We'll sit
I
down.
looked and I went, oh, God.
I'm sorry?
I looked and I went, oh, God, how do you do that? So I bought a financial accounting book.
That'll help.
Are you
If
in
I can
the
help
first
with it.
class?
Say again?
Online?
No, in.
Oh, you're in its
Yeah.
class. I'm taking that one too, and I actually have research from last semester. A lot.
Which
of
course
the-
now?
The accounting
Okay,
class.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
A lot of the questions on the quizzes, you can find those, did you get that book? It's like the $200 book. If you go at the end of the chapter, they have those study questions. He uses a lot of those study questions.
Oh, good.
And the answers for those are in the book as well. So like, make note cards with those, and it's really helpful.
Okay, thank you.
There's social capital at work. Good, yeah. Anybody else anything?
In the questions, the human capital question stuff, it talks about what should be your perspective on human capital. And then when I was going through the book, it was talking about sometimes having too much social capital and wanting to diminish it. Is that a thing? Or did I
It
make
asks
that up?
you 6 ways to.
No, that's like in the book somewhere else.
No, there is no 6 ways in the book that I know of.
No, I was talking about like the 6 ways. As a manager slash leader, what should be your perspective on this issue?
Yeah,
Like, if having too much social interaction and things like that, is that something, or is that?
An incorrect-
well, I hate to give away an answer to one of my favorite questions, you know. What should be your perspective on human and social capital as a manager?
Yeah.
A, understand what it is. B, evaluate whether it is here. And C, figure out what needs to be done to take it to its peak maximum efficiency, like any other asset. How do I get the most out of it? If I don't have enough, how do I build it? I don't think you can have too much, but it may be displayed or what's the word, manifested in some other way that you may want to stop. Maybe they're too social because at 4 o'clock every day they're headed down to Applebee's. Great social capital, but they're still on the clock, and maybe they get down there and they drink too much. Maybe you have problems. Well, okay, you got to do something about that. Maybe that's an example of too much social capital.
Or would they bring their personal drama to work?
Could be. Could be. Okay? As far as six ways to identify it or something,
Diminish.
What are
6 ways to, I'm relying on you and your experiences to remember things that have happened that would do that.
Yeah, it was fun.
And if you've worked more than one job, you should have at least 12, right? What else? No? Anybody? I guess the mass is ended. Go in peace.